youth for the Community Violence Prevention Program. As many of you may be aware, the coalition provides training and technical support to the Community Violence Prevention Program. And today's panel is just one of what we hope to be a recurring series of events between now and August that we believe will help support the work we do across the various program components. So today we have convened what I consider, what I'm sure quite a few people will consider, a distinguished panel of mentoring practitioners, researchers, activists, to share some of their thoughts, some of their ideas, some of their wisdom about what makes an effective mentor, what makes an effective mentoring program. We have Sharita Morrison, where she serves as founder and CEO of Demoiselle to Family. To Sharita's right is Dr. David Dubois, and I told him earlier, I was also going to call him Boys. Is a professor in the Division of Community Health Sciences with the School of Public Health at the University of Illinois Chicago. To Dr. Dubois' right is George Sorrell, the President and CEO of the 100 Black Men of Chicago. To George's right is Kelly Fair. Kelly is a literacy advocate and mentor who founded College Couples Girls Mentoring Program in 2009. To Kelly's right is Mandel Williams. Mandel established and launched a thriving mentoring program, the Knights of Omega Mentoring Foundation, for high school young men in the Chicagoland area. And to Mandel's right is Robert Castaneda. He is the co-founder and executive director of Beyond the Ball, a sports-based youth and community development organization. What are some of the risks that the youth you work with are facing, and how does your organization address or help those young people overcome those risks?
So as a practitioner, I think that there's a way to look at the youth. The term at risk is a social term, especially by professionals. I deem our youth in risk. In risk is when risk is in your home. You wake up to it every day. Your family is the risk. The neighborhood is the risk. The school distress conditions that you attend is risk. And so they're surrounded by risk. So they're not at risk, they're in risk.
What the research says is that when kids play, when they're active, it makes them more resilient to trauma. And unfortunately, we live in a funding culture where people tend to dismiss play. People tend to dismiss what kids are naturally attracted to, like sports, like basketball. And those things can be just as destructive if not done well. But at the same time, as a society, we've gotten too far away from trying to reach young people in what they're naturally interested in, like sports, like the game of basketball.
Youth who appear resilient in that they came from in-risk environments and circumstances and went on to avoid juvenile justice and go to college and complete college are showing more susceptibility to chronic health concerns and psychological issues. That is, arguably, although there was this press to get them to those outcomes, the attending to the whole young person was not there. And so I think the wisdom here, within the constraints that you have to operate under, both as mentors and programs, to particularly emphasize certain outcomes, to fight the good fight and make sure that that larger picture of, that they're playing, that they're enjoying life, and that they have somebody who cares about them in their life. Those are outcomes.
How do you go about linking to supportive services that maybe your direct organization may not provide? So we're talking some of the youth housing, some of the youth transportation. I think we all agree that a lot of our youth are in need of mental health counseling, some in need of substance issues counseling. If you could please share with us, how does your organization partner or collaborate with other existing providers to make sure that your young people get access to those services?
When programs support mentors actively in how to not try to be everything to a young person just in what they can offer in those immediate interactions, which are profound and important, but to also have the the mandate and the support from a program in connecting that young person to the kinds of services and opportunities, play and sport, as well as direct services, we see better outcomes.
One of the things that we did do last year is we partnered with Metropolitan Family Services. I got to know, again, in another networking situation, one of the directors over there, and she agreed to send some of her staff over to train some of my volunteers and staff on the signs of what you may see with kids dealing with a lot of trauma.
Yeah, I think it's about tapping into the communities that you work in as well. I know that, for instance, we work in Auburn-Gresham, we work with Chicago State University. On the west side, we build a relationship with Build. So I think it's really about where is it in the particular areas that you're working with, what are the particular needs, and then what are the organizations that line up with it.
The truth of the matter is our youth do care, and they want and can learn. They long for adults who are willing to make the effort to understand them and who will provide them the acceptance and guidance they need. If one is patient and looks hard and deep enough, they will understand that the at-risk message is this: don't give up on me. What are your thoughts on that?
Our jobs as mentors, we wouldn't do this if it wasn't in us. We are giving people by nature. Everyone that I've run into personally as a mentor, they're giving people. They're not selfish, they give of themselves. So our accountability to the kids is there already. I commend all the mentors because you give unselfishly of your time, your personal resources. And no, we won't give up on these kids because sometimes we're all that they have.
I've noticed in the conversations, whether it be informal or formal, that I've had about just youth and violence, is we don't talk about the lack of hope. And I think what looks like lack of hope, a lot of times the root of it may be a lot of mental illness and a lot of depression in our community. There are a lot of lack of services, but I think one of the things that politically that conversation doesn't exist because you have to come back to the lack of economic and social resources in our community.
If you're engaging your mentee in productive pursuits like helping them get engaged in volunteer and employment work, that's wonderful, but also simple recreation and pleasurable activity. Therapists who get $150, $200 an hour potentially, when somebody comes and on one of these scales they're depressed, the evidence-based treatment that's at one of the top of the list, well, tell me what you enjoy doing, what you haven't been doing, go do it, come back, tell me how you're feeling in a week. And it actually works. But the good news about mentoring is you actually go do it with the person, which is even better than a therapist. So
Rob is a national speaker, consultant, trainer, and owner of Lavelle Publishing. Please join me and bring Barbara Jackson to the stage.
I'm thankful to be here today, and I thank Mr. Malik and his staff, Christy, and the rest of the staff for having me here today. And I'm going to talk to you a couple brief moments about mentoring and about what mentoring has done for me. If you can control a man's thinking, you don't have to concern yourself with his action. When you determine what a man shall think, you have to concern yourself about what he would do. If you make a man feel inferior, you don't have to compel him to accept an inferior status. He will seek it himself. If you make a man feel he is justly an outcast, you don't have to order him to the back door. He will go without being told. And if there's no back door, his very nature will create one. That is the state of our at-risk youth today, and I was one of those kids. As you see this young man behind you, I wanted to be successful, but I had a lot of baggage to go along with it. When I was 6 years old, I went through sexual and physical abuse. Fast forward, I made it through the cracks. I make it into college. I'm going into my senior year at Western Kentucky University. I'm getting recruited by scouts all over the country. They want me to come and play for their team, and I was supposed to be going in the draft. I go home to visit my family 2 weeks before training camp into my senior year. I run into the guy that stabbed me and robbed me for my shoes. He had been in jail for 10 years. He had just got out of jail 2 weeks when I saw him. He went to jail because he robbed and killed the pizza man, ordered a pizza, took the man's money and murdered him. Did 10 years in jail for that. And here he is walking around again. But at this time, I'm 10 years older. I'm this 5'11", 235-pound football player. I'm not that little scrawny kid that he robbed. So when I saw him, all that anger came back because I never dealt with the pain. Some of you in this room know what I'm talking about because you're walking around in pain right now as we speak. See, if you don't deal with that pain, it will grab you. Like it grabbed me that day when I was at that restaurant and my appetite left me. And all I wanted at that point was revenge. So when I saw him face to face, and I took that 9 out of my pants and I put it up to his head, I said, I ought to kill you. Because he didn't know all the torment I went through for 10 years. And all the nightmares I had. See, I carried a 9mm on me because when I came home from school, we were known to get robbed because they thought guys in college had money. And some of you who've been to college know that's far from the truth. But at this point, I never dealt with the anger, and I got this gun to his head, and one side of me is telling me to pull the trigger. If I pull that trigger, everything I work for goes down the drain.